Joey Balistreri. I'm so glad that you're here. Today on my work table, I am working on another project with a collaboration box that I did with Didi Beads, and it was called A Night at the Symphony. So I have a lot of beads left over. I've lost track. I think I have done 3 other videos with this box. In it, we included really nice long strands of things. So I have done 2 pairs of earrings, an opera length necklace. This is 1 pair. I have it on, it's a little cold today, but I did a bangle using wire, and my shirt has to unclasp me, but I used the agate beads, the square pillow agate beads in the box, and these Baroque check glass pearls and some 20 gauge wire, and did this really beautiful hand wired bangle bracelet. And I still have so much left over, so I've lost track how many projects, but if you check the description box under this video, you'll find links for all of those projects, so you'll see what I have left over and also what I'm pulling in, because when I started my very first, I think the unboxing maybe, I did the first project there, I showed you guys how I kind of go shopping in my own supplies when I get a bead box to find things that I may or may not use, but to add in. So in this project, I am working with, I'm going to be stringing on my garnet color Soft Flex 49 strand bead stringing wire. This was just so pretty with the wine colors in this box. But what I started out is I went into my scrap bag of my Soft Flex wire so that I could kind of work out what I'm doing before I cut my actual lengths. And so this is kind of to give you a little peek at where I am planning to go with this necklace. Let me get in the view of the camera. So what you see here in the middle is a check glass carrier bead, and they are 2-hole beads if you are not familiar, and this one has a travertine wash on it, which we had some other beads in this box with the travertine finish. It's one of my favorites, and I am using these jet black opaque demi round spacer beads. They're a type of seed bead. I love these. But if you don't have those, you could just use seed beads. And I also have these beautiful wine colored 11-0 seed beads that I'm using. And also from my stash, I have these 3mm wine colored, they look like they have an Aurora Borealis finish on them. I think they do because they just sparkle so much, but they are check glass, pressed glass bicone beads. I cannot talk today. I wanted to call them triangle beads, but they are bicone beads. And one of the things that was in the box were these gorgeous twisted check glass bugle beads, and they are in that really shimmery gold. So this is going to be mostly a stringing project with a twist. No pun intended, because the bugle beads are going to be a large part of the stringing, and they are twisted bugle beads, but I'm going to do a double strand, creating like a focal with this carrier bead, and then this top strand will need to be, I was playing with my pattern here because this needs to be a little bit shorter and this one a little bit longer to curve up and meet up together here, where the stringing will become just single strand. So I'm just going to show you some other things that I was playing with just for ideas in case you like this design but maybe don't have a carrier bead, don't have the exact same things. These little spacer bars, I happen to have these 3-hole ones here. This one's really pretty. They could work too, like I was playing with stringing this as my focal point. Even one of these on each side. You could really have fun with anything that has 2 holes or 3 holes. If I used these, I would have just ignored this center hole. But the carrier bead works really well, and since the ones that I had in my stash really go well with what was in the box, the travertine finish and just the colors in the box, the black and burgundy and gold, and then the wood tones. We also had these little Baroque oval beads, which I was thinking I might use in my stringing. They might be they're a little bit maybe a little bit big. I haven't really decided the rest of the pattern, but this was a night at the symphony, so this was like the metaphorical wood tones that are in the violins and the cellos, and you know, it was just like that elegant, like the burgundy. You often see the burgundy velvet ropes at the theater, velvet curtains, that kind of thing. So it was a really, really beautiful box. And at the time that this goes on YouTube, I don't know for sure, but this morning when I checked Didi Beads, there were still a few of our box available. So I don't know if that will be the case when this actually goes up on YouTube, but filming today, there are some of these available if you didn't get one and you've decided you like these beads. So what I'm going to do is start out with an 18-inch piece of that garnet 49 strand from Soft Flex, and then I have a 10-inch piece. And I'm going to take this off of here and string it onto my actual, you know, my actual stringing material. I have a little bag on my work cart behind me, and I keep these scraps. I don't throw them away. They're wonderful for earrings, wonderful for rings, but I also use them if I need a dummy wire in something, and also if I am working out a design and I just need to string, you know, and then I'm not cutting and wasting material. Also, sometimes I'll put two of them together if I think that I want to string two through a bead, and like if I need to check the hole, you know, I'll do this just to see if the bead will hold two strands, and like these do, they just have a little bit of the finish kind of blocking the hole on some of these beads. But see how I just can check before I start designing, and that way, you know, I don't string a lot and do a lot of work and then find out that my project isn't actually going to work. So I am going to just set this up the way that I had designed it. This is the main body of the necklace, the 18-inch. So I want to get my carrier bead about in the middle of that strand, and you know, this is going to move around until I crimp. And so the idea is to do this pattern up to where this is laying like that, and then I'm going to move into a single strand. So I'm just going to take a second, since I have worked this pattern out, and go ahead and move it from my test strands to my actual strands. And I think it might be wise to get another clamp. You always think that you can string, and you always think you won't drop it, it'll be fine. And then when all your beads are on the floor, you realize that you should have clamped off. Okay, so both sides are strung identically, and I know that this is not a great camera angle for you to see, but when I hold this up the way it would be on the body, it lays nicely. And I did want this to be around an 18-inch. 17, 18, 19 is fine with me, which is shorter than I normally make, but I have gotten absorbed in watching all the channels that do the jewelry trends that are coming up for 2025. And one of the things that we used to do was layer necklaces, but we used to layer them in a very organized way where you'd have like 16, 18, 20, and then maybe a really long one. But now it's almost just like stack them on, kind of like, you know, organized chaos. Choose your necklaces that go together, but just let them land on top of each other a little bit and not so perfectly laid out. So I am thinking that this might be a wonderful piece to layer, because I'm going to keep it light. I'm keeping the scale of my beads a little bit smaller. And so that's what I have so far, and that is just simple stringing. And I just took my time. I always pause the camera just to play with my pattern so that I was happy with it, happy with alternating my burgundy, black, and gold, and you know, that my ends here meet up. So I'm going to use my if I can find it, my Soft Flex #2 gold filled crimp tubes. These are really good quality. They have a nice thick wall, and they work perfectly with the magical crimping plier. I do need to do a video because I keep getting questions about the different ways to crimp, the magical crimping plier, the fold over type, and even the flat crimp type. And this might have been a good project for that, because actually you could put a crimp bead on here and just flat crimp. In fact, maybe I'll just do that, and just to show you, and let me just, for those of you that have this question, I'll just explain that a flat crimp, you know, really, as far as strength wise, to me, it's a little less strong than the magical crimping plier, or using the Zuron plier, where you kind of fold the crimp tube into a taco. But on a piece like this, it really doesn't need, it's not going to get a lot of stress. It's really just to hold the two strands together, and then I'm going to move into more stringing. So it's actually the perfect application for a flat crimp, and that is super easy. I also use the flat crimp. I'm sorry guys, I'm reaching behind me to get a crimp bead. I also like to use a crimp bead and do a flat crimp if I want to expose the beading wire. So if I want to put a bead here, and then I'll flat crimp and then let this show, and then flat crimp again, place another bead, flat crimp, and you get sort of that floating bead look, and it's really pretty. But there are people that flat crimp everything. So you might have to experiment if you're having trouble crimping and kind of figure out what works for you. But let me see if I can show you the difference, because I did have somebody even ask me what is a crimp bead as opposed to a crimp tube. So the tube, and if you can see, the soft flex ones have a really thick wall, and it's just a really good quality. These are gold filled, and it is a little cylinder, a little tiny cylinder. But a crimp bead looks almost like a little seed bead. Whoops, I knew that was going to happen because I can't get my fingers out of the way. But it looks almost like a seed bead, but it has a surprisingly large hole. It looks like you would never be able to fit to like 49 strand through it, but you actually can. And this type of crimping is super easy because you literally just take your pliers and flatten it. Okay, so I have both strands through there, and it's just like even, you know, do the same things that you do with the other crimp. Is just make sure you organize yourself, like that your strands are not twisted or like braided. You know, make sure that things are laying the way that you want. And here I have to mention here that I kind of knew that a little bit of my soft flex wire was going to show. I did do seed beads on this space right here. Let me zoom in to show you what I'm talking about. But a little bit of my soft flex is going to show, but there are so many pretty colors, and it just doesn't bother me. It can just become part of the design. So when you flat crimp, and I'm going to just lay this down, I still have a chance to make adjustments because this side is open, but I just fed both of my wires on that bead, and I'm just going to make sure they are side by side, they are parallel, and I am going to just flatten it, and that's a flat crimp, and it's pretty strong. Like, you can tug on it and it's pretty strong. I just don't tend to do this when I'm closing off a bracelet or a necklace, but for an application like this where you're going 2 strands into a single strand, it's perfect. I'm going to set my number 2 crimp tubes over there and use those for my clasp on my necklace, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing on this side. Just feed both of those wires into a crimp bead and flatten it. Okay, just like that. Look how gorgeous this is, and it's so lightweight. Oh my, that's going to be absolutely beautiful. So now from here, I can put a crimp cover over this, and I may do it, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do my stringing. And I actually can trim away some of this shorter wire because I don't need it for strength or anything. So I'm going to just trim a little bit away, and it's going to hide inside my beads. And I think my plan was to start off with one of these Baroque pearls on each side, but I actually do think I want to put a little bit of metal presence in this. Oh, that's pretty. Those are just perfect. So these are just some little bead caps that I had in my stash, and I'm not going to have a lot of Baroque pearls in this stringing pattern because I think I want to stay with the bugle beads and my smaller beads. I want this to be a lightweight. I want to keep it nice and light. And I'm going to string from both sides because I do not want it to be asymmetrical. I want it to be symmetrical, same on both sides. Let's see how that's looking. Oh, that is so pretty. Beautiful. So now I might not even need to do a crimp cover because my little flat crimp, can you see? It just kind of disappears under that bead cap. So I am going to string, string, string. Let's see. Put some of these little bicones here. Oh, we also had in our box, we also had these gold bicones, and they are so pretty. I might put some of those in my stringing pattern as well. You know, if you guys have been on my channel, if you're a person that's been here before, I know you have heard me say this is like the most fun. This is the most joyful, is just playing with my bead patterns. So I tend to kind of show you where I'm going and then pause the camera and come back and show you what I came up with, because I like to really take my time and like string things on and then take them off again and try something else before I settle. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll be repeating the same thing on both sides. That's pretty. Let's see then if I go into bugle beads, if I like the sparkle. Oh, that's pretty. That's so pretty. And do I want a little bit more black up here? Okay, I'm going to string away and think this through, and I'll come back and show you what I decided on. Okay, I am done with all these beads. Set those out of the way, and I have gone ahead and crimped this side with the magical crimping plier, and this side is going to be identical to that. So I'll show you that second way to crimp, and I've taken out a couple of little jump rings here, and I'm going to use that other number 2 crimp tube. And if you don't have a carrier bead like the one that I had, or you know, I was even looking for a jet black one, this little assortment of bars, spacer bars with 3 holes, is an Amazon find, and there are some really beautiful ones. So if you're interested in this, I'll link it in the description box below. I mean, there were some really pretty ones that could be used for this design in here, and like I say, I was just playing and playing, and in the end I decided on that one. But these spacer bars would be great for this project. So I'm going to put those away, and I have also taken from my stash this little pave toggle clasp. The T-bar and the little ring are micro pave. It's gold plated, but these are unusual because they have the extender chain, and I actually think I'm going to just leave the extender chain and attach that to the back of my necklace with these jump rings. So I'm going to feed on this number 2 crimp tube and make a loop and go back down. I did put O beads, the demi rounds, as my last 3 beads on my pattern, because I knew that this wire would go back through them. They have a pretty large hole for such a tiny little bead. And I'm just going to get my loop to be about the same size as the other side. that looks pretty good. And you know, you don't want to have any gaps, but on this necklace, this was so easy to crimp because we flat crimped here for the focal part of the necklace. So this part is, you know, really, there wasn't a lot to manage as far as your spacing and all. But, and you guys, I wish we had Feel-O-Vision. YouTube needs to get right on that because this necklace feels amazing. It's so lightweight. It has a little bit of weight with the Baroque pearls and with the carrier bead, but it's very lightweight. And as I said, I'm watching jewelry trends and thinking how great this would be to wear, you know, the shortest one and then layer on a long necklace, maybe a medium length. So pretty. Okay, so I'm going to come with my magical crimping plier, and I just want to make sure, especially when you end a pattern with small beads, seed beads or demi rounds, that I am not chomping down on those beads and breaking it, because then I would have to restring. And also just taking my time to make sure that the tube is right in the middle of the well before I close the plier. And then it takes the tube and turns it into a square, pinching the four corners. And then I'm just going to turn it in the opposite direction, and again making sure that it's in the center. And just for me, I take my time at this point because I want to make sure that when I close, I'm not breaking those beads. And then just keep the position of that little tube in the, gotta reposition, just keep it in the center of the well and just go around a few times, opening and closing. And before too long, after a few times, you will feel that it's not doing anything anymore. And when you take it away, you have made a crimp bead. So you could also, I'm not a crimp bead, you have made a bead. And you could also do the fold over crimp method with a regular crimping plier. Like I have the Zuron one with all the different divots in it. To me, the strength between the magical crimping plier and that one is the same. I've never had a problem with either one. It's just which one you can do the best. This is my favorite method to crimp. I always say a non-jewelry maker is going to look at this and have no idea how this piece of jewelry art is held together, because you know, that looks like a little bead. It doesn't look like it's doing a function. And to me, it is magical. I'm fascinated by it. And the other cool thing about this design is there is no front or back. You don't have to worry about left hand, right hand, especially if you're doing a toggle. So it is just a fun, really fast. It was really basically, as I said, no pun intended, a stringing project with a twist. And I had a great time designing this. I love a good stringing project. They are just perfect for the weekend. To me, it's like playing with my beads. Okay, everybody has to go on the jump ring. And one of the things I do love about putting my clasps on with a jump ring, because I could have made this loop like right through the chain, but one of the things I love about this is when I'm all finished and I try it on, if I need to open that jump ring and shorten this chain, or if I want it a bit longer and I want to add 3 or 4 more jump rings here to give a little bit more length, it's you know, takes less than a minute to do it. I don't have to restring anything, and I can really make those like final adjustments after my piece is finished. So I really like using a jump ring rather than making this loop directly through the chain, if that makes sense. And then I will do one last thing for this piece. If you've been on my channel before, I am sure that you can guess what that is. Oh my goodness, this is such a pretty necklace. This is absolutely gorgeous. So I have done a shorter, almost, it's not really a choker, but a shorter length necklace with this box. I did an opera length lariat necklace. Like I said, 2 pairs of earrings, this bracelet, and I have these hematite nuggets that I have not used. I don't even think I used one. And I still have all of these 6mm check glass faceted rounds. I still have a ton of beads left, and I think I'm going to design yet another bracelet. And I actually got 2 bracelets identical to this because of a camera malfunction in this video. So you guys, this box, for the price that Stella was able to put it together for, is really amazing. The pieces of jewelry that have come out of this box and that I still have to go are really, really amazing. So I love to put an anti-tarnish coating on things like these bead caps. I will brush it over this entire toggle clasp, even the sparkly bits. I just have to make sure that you get the semi-gloss if you're going to do this over something that you want to sparkle, because it is also available in matte. And if you brush the matte over something that's pave like this, it will cloud the crystals, and you know, you won't get the sparkle. But this is just something that I do to all of my pieces. It's my last step. It's my habit. I don't always know what's going to go into a piece. So like I decided on the bead caps at the last minute. So, you know, you could do it ahead of time if you know exactly what's going in your piece. I never do. So this has become my habit, but I'll even brush it on a chain because this is just fashion jewelry and it has just a plating, but this way when it touches the skin, it's not going to tarnish very quickly. This makes it last a really long time. And on this piece, I've mostly used glass. So, you know, this really just super fast to brush this onto 4 bead caps and that little clasp. So that is, and even the crimp where I've flat crimped, brush a little bit on that because that is also just fashion jewelry metal and it will darken. And so this way my piece looks great and it will stay looking great. And you guys, I can already touch this and see how it does not cloud the crystals. So I'll do the other part of this and very quickly and put some pictures up at the end of the video. Don't forget to check the description box. I will put links to Didi Beads, links to all my favorite tools. I always do that because I have come to realize that there's a lot of people just getting started making jewelry, and there, you know, a lot of you message me about tools because you're just at the beginning of kind of collecting up the different things to work with. So I always list my favorite ones in my description box. And what else? Yeah, any of my findings, anything that I know where I got it will be in that description box. And I will also link the other videos, the other projects that I have done with this beautiful box, A Night at the Symphony. So I thank you all so much for being here. I hope everybody's safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. Ciao, creative friends.